Good afternoon, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, it is truly a privilege to welcome you all to Vibrant Gujarat Regional Conference, South Gujarat Edition in Surat. The economic powerhouse of South Gujarat and one of the India's most dynamic industrial regions. South Gujarat has long represented the entrepreneurial spirit that defines modern India. From textiles and diamonds to chemicals, petrochemicals, engineering, and exports. This region has consistently demonstrated how industrial growth, innovation, and resilience can together create a long term economic transformation. And today's gathering is not merely a seminar, it is a part of a larger industrial vision. A vision that began with Vibrant Gujarat initiative, conceptualized as a platform to connect policies, industry investment, and innovation, and which today has evolved into meaningful regional engagement across key industrial clusters of Gujarat. And South Gujarat stands firmly at the center of this transformation. As one prominent personality rightly said, I don't believe in taking right decisions. I take decisions and then make them right. And that spirit reflects India's chemical and petrochemical sector today. Bold in ambition, adaptive in approach, and future-focused in execution. My name is Amisha Shah, and it is my absolute pleasure to be your host for this afternoon. Transforming chemicals and petrochemicals in Gujarat, innovation, sustainability, and global competitiveness. We are honored to have with us distinguished policymakers, global representatives, industry leaders, and experts whose collective experience and vision will help us shape the future roadmap of this important sector. On behalf of the organizers, I extend a very warm welcome to each and every one of you here. To formally set the context of today's seminar, it is my privilege to invite Shri Amit Tharwa, Technical Advisor Chemical, Industries Commissionerate, Government of Gujarat. With extensive experience in industrial policy implementation, environmental infrastructure initiatives, and ease of doing business frameworks, Shri Tharwa sir has contributed significantly towards strengthening Gujarat's chemical and petrochemical ecosystem. His efforts continue to support Gujarat's vision of sustainable industrial growth and investment-led development. May I now request Shri Amit Tharwa sir to kindly please come on stage and deliver the welcome address. A huge round of applause for Shri Amit Tharwa sir.
Good afternoon to all. On behalf of Government of Gujarat and Industries Commissionerate, it gives me immense pleasure to warmly welcome all the dignitaries, senior government officials, industry leaders, distinguished panelists, representatives from industries associations, MSMEs, academic institutions, and all other participants to this important seminar on transforming chemical and petrochemical in Gujarat, innovation, sustainability, and global competitiveness. I'd like to extend my special and respectful welcome to our esteemed speakers. Sir, it is really I'm thankful to all the speakers that you have kindly accepted our request and spare your time, and you have accepted here to to share your valuable inputs and insights of your experience. Your presence here reflects your continued commitment to the growth and development of chemical and petrochemical sector in Gujarat, and we sincerely look forward to your guidance and perspectives during the discussion. Friends, As we all are aware, chemical and petrochemical sector occupies a very significant place in Gujarat industrial ecosystem. Gujarat has firmly established itself at the forefront of India's chemical and petrochemical industry, and today, nearly we are contributing 62% of India's petrochemical production and contributing nearly 35% of total chemical production of India. And we also account approximately 38% of India's chemical export. This leadership position reflects a state's strong capabilities across the entire value chain, from basic and bulk chemical to specialty chemical, performance and advanced chemical. This success has been made possible through well-developed industrial infrastructure, excellent port and logistic connectivity, availability of skilled manpower, and consistent and industry-friendly policy framework by the state of Gujarat. As we all aware, the southern region of the Gujarat state in particularly has played an important role in this growth story. With the strong connections of chemical and petrochemical units, MSME and downstream industries, the region continue to attract investment due to its robust ecosystem, natural advantage and strong entrepreneurial spirit. At the same time, the chemical and petrochemical sector is undergoing a rapid change, increasingly global competition, growing emphasis on safety and environmental compliances, the need of sustainable and manufacturing practice, adoption of new technologies, and the integration of MSME into global value chains have become a key priorities nowadays. Innovation, energy efficiency, circular economy, and cleaner manufacturing are no longer optional, but it are the essentials nowadays. Keeping all these aspects in mind, this seminar has been organized as a focused platform for dialogue and exchange. The objective is to bring together key stakeholders to share ideas, their experience, and the best practices, discuss current challenges, and explore future opportunities. More importantly, the seminar aims to identify ways in which the Gujarat can further strengthen its position as a globally competitive and sustainable hub for chemical and petrochemical. The program today includes 2 panel discussions where the senior industry leaders, experts, policymakers will deliberate on important themes related to innovation, sustainability, safety, operational excellence, export, MSME growth, and investment opportunities. I am confident that these discussions will be insightful, practical, and beneficial to all the MSMEs. I am so happy to inform you that during the 2 days program, there will be a MOU exchange with 2 companies worth rupees 2050 crore rupees. After that, we have another sessions wherein we will be issuing sanction letters to 3 industries under the scheme of common environment infrastructure, wherein we will be government of Gujarat will be providing assistance to the industries. I encourage all the participants to actively engage in the discussion, share their views, and make full use of this platform for interaction, collaboration. The suggestions, feedback, and outcomes of the seminar will be valuable inputs for shaping future initiatives and policy support for sustainable and competitive growth of the chemical and petrochemical sector in Gujarat. With these words, I once again extend my warm welcome to all the participants, speakers, and one and all present in this hall. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for those insightful remarks and for beautifully setting the tone for today's discussion. I would like to now invite our first panel discussion dignitaries on stage one by one. So first I would like to invite Ms. Eva Versatillin on the stage. Ms. Eva, a huge round of applause for Ms. Eva. And I would like to invite Shri Amit Dharwa sir to please come on stage to facilitate ma'am with flowers. Let's have a warm welcome to Miss Eva. Next, I would like to invite our dignitary, Shri Shailesh Nigam, to please come on stage. A huge round of applause. And I would like to invite Shri D.M. Rana, General Manager, DIC, Mahisagar, to please come on stage and facilitate Sir with flowers. Welcome, sir. Welcome, sir. Please have a seat. Next, I would like to invite Shri Manish Kiri, sir, to please come on stage. A huge round of applause for Shri Manish Kiri, sir. I'd like to invite Shri D.M. Rana, sir, again for coming and facilitating with flowers. A huge round of applause for everyone. Next, I would like to invite Shri Shyamal De, sir, on the stage, please, and Ms. Arpita Parmar, IC office, to please come on stage to facilitate sir with a flower bouquet. Ms. Arpita Parmar. A huge round of applause. We are lucky to have all of them here. So, तालियां जो है वो ज़्यादा होनी चाहिए. Yes, that's the spirit. Now I would like to invite Shri Madhukar Rao sir on stage, please, and to facilitate Ms. Arpita Parmar again to please come on stage. A huge round of applause once again. With this, we now move on to our first panel discussion. Future planning for opportunities and strategic priorities for chemical and petrochemical sector. India's chemical and petrochemical sector today stands at a defining moment. The conversation is no longer only about production capacity. It is about sustainability, innovation, circular economy, energy transition, global competitiveness, and long-term resilience. As a prominent speaker once said, progress is often equal to the difference between the mind and the mindset. And today's discussion is precisely about that shift in the mindset from conventional industrial growth to future-ready industrial ecosystem. This discussion becomes even more relevant for South Gujarat, a region that contributes significantly to India's chemical manufacturing strength and continues to emerge as a hub of future-focused industrial investments. Before we begin, a small request to our esteemed panelists. In the interest of time, to ensure smooth conduct of the program, we'll be gently adhering to timelines. I would now like to introduce our moderator. It is my pleasure, Shri Madhukar Rao, Vice President at Chem Analyst. A huge round of applause for Sir. A highly respected industry veteran with nearly 4 decades of experience spanning refinery operations, petrochemicals, gas processing, renewable energy, and large-scale industrial projects, Shri Rao brings deep strategic and technical expertise to this discussion. Having held several leadership roles, including at GAIL, his insights to industrial transformation and sectorial evolution make him ideal moderator for today's panel. Welcome, sir. A huge round of applause. Now I would like to talk about our panelists. The first is Ms. Eva, representing Belgium and Flanders Investment and Trade in India. Ms. Eva has played a real role in strengthening economic partnerships between India and Europe. Her work actively supports industrial collaboration, investment facilitation, technology exchange, and strategic trade partnerships between the two regions. Belgium particularly is globally recognized as one of the world's most integrated chemical and petrochemical ecosystems, demonstrating how infrastructure logistics, sustainability, and collaboration together can create a long-term industrial competitiveness. As Paula Polman once said, businesses cannot succeed in societies that fail, and that thought reflects the growing global emphasis on sustainable, collaborative, and responsible industrial development. Next, I would like to introduce Shri Shailesh Nigam, a chemical engineering graduate. Mr. Shailesh Nigam is present. Okay. A chemical engineering graduate from IIT Kanpur and alumnus of IIM Bangalore, Shri Shailesh Nigam brings over 4 decades of experience across petrochemicals, refining, fertilizers, and industrial infrastructure. Having spent more than 30 years with Reliance Industries, he has contributed significantly to several landmark manufacturing projects, including Hazira and Jamnagar. His expertise spans process excellence, industrial safety, leadership development, and emerging technologies. A huge round of applause for Shri Shailesh Nigam. I now like to introduce Shri Manish Kiri, a visionary entrepreneur and industry leader. He has played a transformational role in expanding Kiri Industries globally, including the strategic acquisition of Dystar Group in Germany. He has also actively diversified into green hydrogen and advanced chemicals and sustainable industrial initiatives. He currently serves as the chairman of SOChem Gujarat's Chemical and Petrochemicals Committee. A huge round of applause. I would like to now introduce Shri Shyamal De. He is a general manager under Miss Atul Limited, Ankleshwar. Under his leadership, Aromatics division of Atul Limited achieved significant milestones in production efficiency, environmental sustainability, and market leadership, particularly with Ankleshwar manufacturing site. Under Shyamal De's operational management, the division successfully executed expansion projects. This division also noted for pioneering of manufacturing of para-N-acetylene alcohol and para-cyrosol in India. A huge round of applause for Sir. And I have already introduced our Mr. Madhukar Rao. So over to you, sir, for the panel discussion to start. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And before I start this, a very warm welcome to all of you. I had never expected such a huge gathering over here, and I am really delighted that so many people are really interested in chemicals and petrochemicals. And we being chemical engineers, we always have this thing towards chemicals and petrochemicals. So as the stage was set by Amit sir, that what was there in chemical and petrochemical industries, I would like to give you a small introduction where we stand in chemicals and petrochemicals. And there is good news and there is work in progress. So sometimes the good news is, say, we are the 6th largest country producing chemicals and petrochemicals. We are 3rd in Asia. So this figures gives us a lot of pride. Say, for example, Gujarat, that technical advisors like him have pushed Gujarat to such an extent that it is unbeatable now in India. So almost 60% of chemicals and petrochemicals are from Gujarat. Almost say 40% of chemicals are exported from Gujarat. So it's a huge achievement by the state of Gujarat, and especially because of all the infrastructures and the schemes and this single window clearance, all these things which had pushed this whole thing into developing the state, as well as it is pushing our GDP. But when I say 6th or when I say 3rd, does it really make some sense? Yes, it sounds good. But in childhood, my father used to tell me one thing, that there was a child who went to his father and said, Papa, I got 100 marks in maths. So his papa was very, very happy. उस समय जोमेटो स्विगी नहीं था, तो उसने तुरंत आजू बाजू से मिठाई मंगाया, सबको बांटा, एंड दैट मेरा बेटा को 100 नंबर आया मार्क्स में, मैथ्स में. और जब रिपोर्ट कार्ड साइन करने गया तो देखा कि 100 आउट ऑफ 300. So sometimes when we talk about absolute figures, we do not get the real picture of the whole thing. So we have to have some sort of a benchmark also. And if the benchmark is not a bad news, actually benchmark is also a good news for many places. जैसे कि एक और स्टोरी छोटा सा सुनाता हूँ कि एक आदमी के 2 बच्चे थे. वो चप्पल के बिजनेस करता था उसका फादर. तो एक बच्चे को जब गया एक गांव में चप्पल बेचने के लिए, तो वहाँ से वो वापस आके बोलता है, पापा पापा वहाँ पे कोई स्कोप नहीं है, वहाँ पे कोई चप्पल नहीं पहनता. और दूसरा बच्चा जाके आया और वो बोलता है, सर वहाँ पे पापा वहाँ पे तो पूरा स्कोप है, एक भी आदमी चप्पल नहीं पहनता. सो how you look at it is the manner in which you have to grow. Say for example, the petrochemicals which we are using today is say 12 kg per capita. अगर वर्ल्ड एवरेज देखेंगे 36 kg है. अगर यूएस से जर्मनी में जाएंगे तो 100 kg है. तो आप क्या बोलेंगे, इट्स ए बैड न्यूज और ए गुड न्यूज? It's a very good news because we have so much of potential. Now, कोई लोग आर्ग्यू करते हैं, सर हमारा इतना ज़्यादा पॉपुलेशन है, आप नीचे में डिवाइड कर देते हैं तो हमारा बहुत कम हो जाता है. मैं मान लेता हूं कि 60% लोग नहीं यूज कर सकते, फिर भी 40% लोग यूज करेंगे, फिर भी हमारा फिगर क्या आएगा, 30 आएगा. कहाँ 100 है और कहाँ 30 है, फिर भी स्कोप बहुत है. And with the kind of development India is having, ये जो 60% वाले हैं वो भी तो आएंगे, खरीदने वाले बनेंगे ना फ्यूचर में. So there is a huge scope in India, and that is the reason with the leadership which we are having right now, and with the kind of policies Gujarat government is showcasing to rest of the India, we have a big scope for improvement. And I am sure by 2040 I think 1 trillion का target है, which I am sure should be achieved if everything goes on like this. With this small introduction, I wanted to just give the perspective of what is petrochemicals and chemicals in India right now. What is it? I would like to go to Eva madam, since she is from Belgium and we are all here for talking about India, but her, I would like to ask that Flanders is one of the region in Belgium which is recognized as a hub for chemicals and petrochemicals in Europe. Could you share what makes Flanders uniquely strong in this?
Thank you very much. I'm audible, I think. Yes, all right. Good afternoon. First of all, a big thank you to the organizers and to all of you for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here present at the Vibrant Gujarat Regional Conference in Surat. So I'm based in Mumbai. I arrived about 2 years ago and I represent Flanders. Now I'm quite positive that most of you have heard of Belgium when we're talking about diamonds, beer, chocolate. That's us. But in Belgium, we have 3 regions. Just like you have states, in Belgium we have regions. And the northern region in Belgium is called Flanders, and that's the region that I'm representing. Because when it comes to commerce and trade, it's the regions who are competent and not on the national level. So I'm based out of Mumbai, and what I do is I help to promote the trade between Belgium, Flanders, and India. So when it comes to chemicals, indeed, many of you might have heard of the port of Antwerp-Bruges, and the representative is also here in the audience. But Flanders actually has a very, very important role to play when it comes to the chemical and petrochemical sector in Europe, because Flanders boasts the largest European chemical cluster in Europe and the second largest in on a global scale after Houston. So with more than 500 chemical companies, there are 2 steam crackers, 3 refineries, and many, many research institutions working specifically on chemicals. It's definitely a chemical powerhouse. Another strong point is the pipeline density. There are pipelines going more than 1,000 kilometers away, all connecting to the German Ruhr region, for instance, or to the Netherlands. And then there's also the global connectivity thanks to the port of Antwerp-Bruges, because we're connected with more than 1,300 ports all over the world, making it very easy for chemicals to move around. Last but not least, there's also the innovation. Innovation plays a very important role in our region. And with big names such as BASF, Covestra, or for instance, Catalysti, Borealis, these are big names present in Flanders, which I'm sure most of you know, meaning that it's not just a production site, but it's really a chemical powerhouse.
Just as a follow-up question, ma'am, I just wanted to understand, what role does Flanders investment and trade play in supporting international collaboration, particularly with India? How does it work?
All right. So I work for Flanders Investment and Trade, meaning that it's a trade agency depending on the Flemish government, meaning I'm not a consultant. The best part of it, you can ask me anything and I don't send you an invoice. So we work for the government, and as I said, I help to promote the trade between Belgium, Flanders and India. And so what we do is we build bridges, meaning that we try to do, make the connections, we make meaningful introductions between companies in India and companies in Flanders. We can provide you with market intelligence, any kind of study information about regulatory matters, for instance, and we try to do strategic matchmaking. What I mean with that is we look at the profile of our Indian companies, we look at the profile of what we have to offer in Flanders, our research institutes and so on. We see what you have to offer, and we see what you might still be looking for, and we try to match that with something from Flanders and vice versa. Aside from that, we also believe very much in soft landing services, and what I mean with that is, for instance, when you want to access the European market, we can give you information about what is the best approach, where are your clients, how to approach them, regulatory information. Also, for instance, if you come to a point where you want to be present in Europe, what is your best location? Is it Germany? Is it France? Is it Flanders? Where in Flanders? And so on. We can help you do the maths. We can help you make the comparisons so you can make the best decision for your company. And we also believe in active and proactive engagement, meaning that we go to conference just as here today. We participate in exhibitions and so on, just to understand the situation, in my case, in the western part of India. We have offices in, across the globe. We have 71 offices worldwide. 3 in India. So depending on the companies we're talking to, it's our office in New Delhi, myself in Mumbai, or the team in Bangalore that can address your questions. So we really do matchmaking. That is how we can help out.
That's really excellent, ma'am, because if somebody has an idea, they have to just approach them and they will get you a solution. So it's so simple as that. That's what I could understand.
Indeed. There's no invoice and no strings attached, so feel free to ask.
So amongst these chemicals and petrochemicals, there is another niche chemicals which are called specialty chemicals. So in these specialty chemicals, normally they are neglected when such huge projects like, say, polyethylene or a polypropylene plants are put up in mega projects. But these specialty chemicals, they play a very, very big role in our day-to-day life. So we have a very good specialty chemical specialist over here. So I would like to ask Mr. Manish Kiri, that what is the current scope and growth potential of specialty chemical sector of India?
Hello. The existing size of the specialty chemicals in India, the overall business is around $62 to $70 billion. And when you compare this size with the global specialty chemicals market of around $4 trillion, there is a vast difference where we are and where the specialty chemical market stands. We are very much underpenetrated, and as you gave an example, that shows that we have ample opportunity to grow from here in India. Now, there are several factors which affect the growth in India. One of them is the domestic consumption. Now, the domestic consumption 10, 15 years ago and domestic consumption today has increased multifold. The economy of scale facilities of specialty chemical areas were are feasible today, which were not feasible earlier. Second is the global demand. Increasing global demand is adding also the requirements to export from India. Third and the most critical factor is deleveraging over dependency on China. Majority of specialty chemicals today are being supplied by China. So we call China plus strategy is the factor that influences the growth the most. And today the industry is growing somewhere in the range of 12 to 15% a year. That kind of CAGR is a CAGR where anyone would like to invest, would like to get into. Now, when we talk about the strengths, what we have to achieve this kind of growth is, especially in Gujarat, we have industrial cluster approach. So clusters like Dahej and chemical industrial cluster is an important element to add growth in specialty chemicals, because one raw material is a byproduct of other unit, right? Waste of one unit used by the other unit as an inputs. So clustered approach, which has been very well accepted by several clusters in Gujarat, it provides an excellent platform to set up units and to grow from here. So these are the factors which are affecting the growth and the growth potential in India.
So actually, these specialty chemicals, many of the people over here may not be really knowing what are these specialty chemicals. So in a simple language, आप अगर उनको बता दें क्या?
Zero, zero. So let us look at the chemicals which are which are required, or which we see that the increasing growth and the demand. One is agrochemicals, let's say, and agrochemicals is an area where we have food security issues globally, and you need more and more crops and agriculture outputs from the limited land. Agrochemicals play an important role in increasing specialty chemical area. Particularly in India, now electronics chemical is going to be tremendously in demand. Huge increase, EV battery and other semiconductor expansion which is happening. Large investments, particularly in Gujarat, also fuels the growth for electronics chemicals, which is the second range of specialty chemicals. Polymers, which are specialty polymers used for infrastructure development. In energy transition also, performance chemicals and many other chemicals, surfactants are used. So it's a vast range of chemicals with thousands and thousands of molecules which are being used in various applications and with particular sectors. And these are the sectors and these are the chemicals where healthcare, pharmaceutical intermediates. Now pharma intermediates, again de-risking from China +1, is also creating a lot of demand domestically, as well as export requirements are fueling the growth of pharma intermediates as well. So these are kinds of the chemicals which are identified as specialty chemicals and not bulk, like petrochemical complexes that one can see.
One more specialty about the specialty chemicals is that it doesn't have a very long shelf life. Means if something is being prepared today, it doesn't last for more than 2 years or 3 years. एक छोटा सा एग्जाम्पल हम आपको देते हैं. Please don't mind my example. Say for example, the lipstick used by ladies used to stick onto the shirts, and you know what is the disaster which happens when a lipstick sticks to the shirt. So there was a big demand from the people, gents especially, that ऐसा lipstick बनाओ जो stick नहीं करे. So this is specialty. So as per the growing demand of the people, it has to change its nature. It cannot remain constant. So that's why they are produced in small numbers, but capable of improving very fast.
और लिपस्टिक को साथ लेके भी घूमो. No, the specialty chemical plants are generally batch processing plants with limited automation. To some level, the automations are there, but one plant can produce hundreds of products. That is a kind of, they are reaction-based facilities and then can produce multiple products. So if one gets obsolete, you can change and replace with, with other molecules produced in the same facility that is being set up. So that's another benefit for the specialty chemicals.
So, because of this dynamism of specialty chemicals, I actually could not convince the management of GAIL that we should have a big complex of that. But I think Gujarat being very dynamic, I think we can convince Gujarat government that Gujarat should have a huge specialty chemical thing. And as he rightly pointed out, there is a huge scope for specialty chemicals in India. Now let us target this 1 trillion. Shailesh sir, India chemical sector targets 1 trillion by 2040. What strategic roadmap should follow to accelerate this ambition? It's a big question for you.
Thank you. First of all, very good afternoon to everyone. Having such stalwarts sharing the dais is humbling and an honor. Welcome to all people who are interested into this chemical and petrochemical journey. The question is, the Indian chemical sector is targeting $1 trillion by 2040. What could be the possible roadmap to that? So before I start on that, first thing is to understand where we are. And as the co-panelist and moderator has indicated, that we are around 24-25 data, 260 billion, around 60% into petrochemicals and 25% into the specialty chemicals, and agro and fertilizer takes care of the 15%. Mind you, this has a trade deficit of around 31 billion. China plus one strategies, which Girish also spoke about, that positions India as a front runner and important member of the global supply chain diversification. So this gives us a major opportunity in terms of the import substitution and in terms of taking steps which minimize the trade imbalances. Going on to the policy framework, Niti Aayog, the think tank, that 2025 roadmap, that says that the global share of Indian chemical currently ranging from 3.5% can go up to 12% by 2040. A lot of steps have been suggested and being taken. A small but important is around allocation of around 600 crores into 3 chemical parks in the union budget, the recent union budget. And basically easing the access for MSMEs by reducing the project timeline as well as the cost. Now coming to the Gujarat role, the overall, 40% of the national chemical output, 62% of the petrochemical is from this state. So I am a chemical engineer and I lived almost all my life in India, since I've been abroad, in Gujarat. So I've been a part to developing some mega projects of Reliance at Hajira and Jamnagar. So I can say that Gujarat is well positioned. The HPCPIR region boasts of a massive investment. Already I think 1.5 lakh crore already invested, and if you go by the plans, it will go many-fold from there. South Gujarat, that is Hajira and the Dahej ports connectivity, established chemical clusters and availability of the skilled workforce, apart from inherent entrepreneurial history within the state. This puts Gujarat at a very front area. Now talking about the roadmap, so I'll just speak in terms of 3 major segments. Specialty chemical, Girish Saab has told. Structural transition from commodity to high margin. Specialty chemicals is the key. Agrochemicals, intermediate, fluorochemicals, performance polymers, and MSMEs will be key to achieving these, around 12% of the global market share. Now coming to the petrochemical downstream, big companies have put up mega capacities within the state in terms of refining as well as in terms of the downstream crackers and basically bringing out the basic building blocks of olefins. But now the key thing is current capacity from 29 million tons is likely to go up to around 46 million tons within a very short span of 5 years. But it is pertinent to note here that 45% of the petrochemical intermediates are still being imported. So it is an opportunity for us to move from basic olefins to the derivatives, downstream engineering, plastics, and elastomers. Onto the agro and fertilizer, it's growing at a rate of around 6.5% CAGR, and it's poised to become 40% of India's total chemical exports by 2040. Shift from basic fertilizers to crop protection, biostimulants, and nano fertilizer is going to the key. And this will also address the food security part of India. What industries like Reliance have done in this sector is world-scale plants in terms of refinery and petrochemical have been put up. These are competing with the best in the world in terms of all technical parameters, in terms of cost of producing this, and they are exporting in a big way. In addition, these are providing inputs for the thousands of SMEs to build up from there. So that is my sum up.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And I think there are a lot of youngsters over here, and they must be listening about the development which India is going to take place. But they always have a question कि हमारे लिए आप लोग कैसा दुनिया छोड़ के जा रहे हैं? Means, आप तो डेवलप कर रहे हैं लेकिन दुनिया को बर्बाद करके जा रहे हैं. So sustainability has become a big issue with the current youth and a challenge to the people who are actually developing this thing. But Gujarat had made a big way through this. So देश आपको मैं पूछना चाहता हूँ कि what are the key success factors for implementing zero liquid discharge across Gujarat chemical manufacturing clusters? This is a very good news actually for everybody.
Thank you so much. I think it's nice to see that many people are interested to basically talking about petrochemicals. I'm also a chemical engineer. I've been in Gujarat for more than 3 decades. I say this, it has become karma for me. Gujarat has all infrastructures, and if you want to really go, if you talk across all the countries, I think no other state has that ambience to bring growth in the country. I think we make about Amitji said, we make about 35% of the total chemicals. So that we should be very proud of the uniqueness of Gujarat states. And our export is more than 45% of the country. And I was telling Nigamji, you see, sustainability may not, whatever we are doing today, it has to remain for years and years. That's called sustainable, without damaging the environment, without damaging our future generations, and how do we keep ourselves strong in this business? So in one of them, and you see this in near future, one of the things which people say that there will be next war will be for what? Water, because you see, so that was question zero liquid discharge concept. I think I heard it when our side became zero liquid discharge in 2011. Our CMD told you have to make, from the airport he called up, Samuel, you have to make the plant zero liquid discharge. Just there is a background to that, because we make one chemical, starting from a zero, absolutely zero, and that goes into all making pharmaceutical intermediates, and we are undoubtedly and unanimously the number one in the world. And we make 55% of that chemical called paracresol at Ankleshwar, starting absolutely from zero. So when we are growing, one of the concepts was how do you, the Ankleshwar and other, Dahej, it's the water scarcity region, how do you recycle the water? So when we talk about zero liquid discharge, I mean it's a recycling of the water. Now when we talk about the recycling in the water, what type of water we are going to recycle? So if you see the circular economy in terms of water, people say, many people have the zero liquid discharge. The water, it's a filter. If you are just talking treatment of your waste and then coming to the RO and multi-effect evaporator, and what is the cost of the zero liquid discharge? Water, there are technology available, like today it's a basically membrane-based technology. Either you go for Toray, hydronautics, you go for DuPont, you go for Rochem. The recovery should be more than 90%. So I just put forward to us who are talking about zero liquid, unless you have a good recovery of the water, your economy may not work. But in future, it will be really sustainable because water cost is going to go up and up. And for running the business like in Rajasthan, there is a plant in Birla, and I think textile, entire water is recycled. So that will be, and also Gujarat government is telling without zero liquid discharge, they are not giving even the permission for sustainability. Because of the water scarcity. First water has to go for irrigation. Even in Ankleshwar, Panoli region, there is a water scarcity for 1.5 months. But our operation is not affected because we recycle the entire water. It is, 38% of our consumptions water is recycled back. And that's a boiler quality water. That's why I'm telling it's going to for steam generation. And that's all technology. So we should not do any shortcuts. So that will be one of the component of the sustainability. Those who are thinking for zero liquid discharge, technologies are available. You can really recycle the entire water in the process. And you will be amazed to see that many people say, why? People say cost. I heard it that it is all published what I'm talking in the public domain data. People talk about my cost of zero liquid is very high. That means the cost of one of the component is multi-effect evaporator where you are treating the reject. If you have less quantity of water, so the recovery of what? You have to, once you recover the water, 60%, 70% the cost will go up. But if you go for above 90, it will be self-sustainable. So sir, whatever, that is one of the component which will be very, very critical, those who are operating in a water scarcity region, and we will be creating future for our future generation. Technologies are available, people do a lot of technology, but someone has to have patience and resilience. These are the things now when we talk about sustainability, we don't have the patience. And we want to continue the same thing for years. I was just telling the component when I joined this company from IIT, passing out, which we talk about atom efficiency, efficiency when you talk about. We are talking about 60%, many of the process, no? And today global benchmark, like Sir told, Maneskri said, China has, 80%. How do you sustain? And we have taken over more than 90%. Today Reliance, you talk about when Reliance came over mid-90s. Who are the biggest? BP, Shell. What changes? They can process any crude available in the world. I think that was the buzzword. Professor M.M. Sharma, I have been working, for 4 decades with him. Whatever sulfur, that's a catalyst was the key to treat any type of crude. That's made the Reliance the great company, #1 company in the petroleum process. So we have to continuously innovate. So thank you, sir. JDLD is one of the component who is going to be, our way of life in future. So people might have many difference. I can give you guidance if you want to have it, but that will be way of life which I have experienced. And I'm operating. You can have all data, can see 400 companies all over the world, including ExxonMobil visited our site. And there are a lot of brains are there, not only, So technologies, if you want to work on the technology, these are available. You can reduce your cost and make your company great. Thank you, sir.
Yes, talking about water, it reminded me of my first flight, international flight. I was going to Canada. And in the flight, they were serving drinks and other things. So, of course, since it was my first flight, I never knew that it was free of cost. So, I did not opt for it. And I opted for water. And whenever I was asking for water, the air hostess was giving me a dirty look. सोचा क्या हो गया? Then I came to know that they carry very little water, but they carry lot of beer. So water is very, very scarce in these places. So we have to be really, really be careful with the water. Now, since we have finished one round of conversation with all the speakers, is there any timekeeper who is keeping the time so that they can give us some warning that we are overshooting or we are whether we are on time.
So we have more time.
We have more time.
Yes, yes.
So if we have more time, I thought Amit sir has guided us that it should be an interactive session. So if anybody has some questions, one or two questions, we can pick it up. Yeah,
Sure.
please.
If someone can please help with the mic.
To hear.
Good afternoon, everybody. So my question is to Mr. Shamal. Sir, we are coming up with a plant here soon, and that will be water intensive. So as you spoke very well about the ZLD, we estimated this for our project. So I would like to know, because you are operating in this region, what is the best technology right now for the ZLD, as well as what is the conversion cost, sir? If you can tell this. And as you,
I'm just telling, yes, guys, very good questions. If you see my figure, you will be really, fall down. See, what happened? JDLD means what? There are steps. So you have to focus on the treatment first. If you are bringing down the waste, TOC level called total organic content less than 100, your recovery will be as high as 93% because membrane is a filter. Fouling will be less. The one of the best membrane which I have, because phenolics, when I was designing phenol, it's a polyamide. Many people told it will not work in your case. But hydronautics has a membrane, my brother, there's a very good membrane. And they gave a guarantee of only 18 months, but that membrane worked for 10 years. So, the hydronautics people told, how can you do it? I told, your membrane is a filter, what is going to do? I was working with Professor Pushpita Ghosh, who was director in CMCR and then become the emeritus. I told him, sir, you are a membrane man in India, guide me. He told, membrane itself is, I am still learning. So 18 months became 10 years. So when you go for a ZLD, first focus on the treatment of your waste. Then only will be. Because I just had and worked with Professor Mukesh Pandya from Joy Hind College, who was who actually helped us to develop the membrane. I worked with him 3 years. No shortcut. If you have to really make an ZLD, and our cost for 1 kiloliter, today it comes from the system. Last year we had about 60 rupees per kl, and this year we have reduced 10 rupees per kl. Just imagine. This year it is around 10 rupees per kil. You can, so I'm getting, like if you buy in Ankleshwar water, 70 rupees per kl. I'm doing a ZLD, entire cost, 1 kiloliter water fed into the ETP and recycle back. ETP, RO plus multi-effect about all cost together comes from is about 10 rupees per kil in our case. But average, even if you get it 50, 60 rupees, no? That is your standard. So, so you are always welcome to see our plant, everything. Anybody you are welcome because many companies. So it's like a shared learning. Nobody is perfect. Anything is available. Like I was telling that when you talk about this, when you treat ETP, there is a dead biomass. How do we filter? I'm not I'm a chemical engineer. When I took the operation, how do you filter? I went some of the company, they use filter press, mess. Then some of the company, you see, solid bowl centrifuge, mess. I did not want to do that. This is the way it's, Then someone, Jagruti from Coca-Cola, I met her in Gandhinagar. She told Jagruti, sir, have you heard about that Hollywood press filter? I told, what is it? He told, that's a Hollywood press filter is used for biomass filtration. And that was the company in Japan, Amcon. Amcon was the leader, and we are the company, first time installed for Hollywood press filter, Amcon for biomass filtration in the country, and now that biomass filtration is sold by 500-600 units, and many people have. So you have to look at continuously differently, when you want to really, upgrade and see. I'm sure you will be successful. There is nothing great things. Many things are available. Many people are doing. And if any things is there, you can connect me. I will be able to just guide you and support. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to welcome Honorable Miss S. Aparna IS among us, who has kindly joined us despite our extremely demanding schedule. Ma'am, your presence truly adds immense value and prestige to today's seminar. May I request you to kindly join us on the dais, and may I also request Shri Amit Dharwa sir to please come and facilitate our esteemed guest with a floral bouquet. A huge round of applause for Miss S. Aparna IS. She is currently serving as a CEO and a chairperson of the Executive Committee of GRIT, a development think tank model on Niti Aayog and set up by the government of Gujarat to steer the development strategies of the state towards Viksit Bharat 2047. As a member of Indian Administrative Service for the past 3 decades, she has a wide range of experience in national, state, and local governments. A huge round of applause once again for ma'am. And ma'am would like to hear something from Ms. Moderator, from the moderator,
welcome,
sir.
welcome,
Yes.
ma'am. Actually, ma'am के लिए तो हम क्वेश्चन पूछ नहीं सकते, लेकिन since she is from IAS background, she is definitely must be a strategic person. So, अगर मैम हमें बताए कि strategic priorities क्या हैं for this petrochemicals and chemicals, I think that will enlighten all of us.
Thank you. Thank you everybody for a very warm welcome, and sorry I could not join the panel a little earlier. I was in another panel with textiles, so I'm just switching off textiles and switching on chemicals now. I'm very happy, and I was hearing the discussion. So I found the discussion was a little too technical for me. So I would request all of us here in this room to kindly take a step backward first. And sometimes it's like government, right? In government also, you are so busy with running the day-to-day affairs of any department or any office, you don't have the time to move back and think long-term or strategically. That happens when you are running an industry or a manufacturing unit. Every day is a bit of a stress. There are problems, challenges, technical challenges, market challenges, regulatory challenges every day. So we are not able to think strategically all the time. So seminars like this gives us an opportunity to be away from the shop floor and think about a little longer term consequence of what we are doing or the industry that we are participating in. So I would like to take 3-4 minutes to talk on that. First, of course, I also do a little reading when I have to, share views, because one of our mandates in GRIT is a think tank set up by government. It's on the lines of Niti Aayog in Delhi. So one of our mandates is that we have to be data driven. So we try to ground our views, our opinions, or our articulation in evidence and data. Of course, also experience and perceptions, because those also matter. But chemical sector globally is growing. It saw a good period of growth till the pandemic, and then now it has moderated a little bit, and that is also the case with India. But and incidentally, I spent 3 years in the Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers. I was Secretary Pharmaceuticals, which is a part of that ministry, but my colleagues were heading the chemical department of DCPC, as it is called. And again, it is not a department which is very large or doing any large schemes. So we used to discuss, and I got some insight, I would not say too much. So one thing that we do find is that, the global consumption is something like $1.24 trillion, and the Indian consumption today is something in the order of 1.2 lakh rupees. So given where the rupee is going nowadays, that is like 1%, right? Or a little over 1% of the global consumption. Out of that, Gujarat has a good share. So it is 0.40 trillion rupees. So Gujarat has a good share. So we have a good base. We have the manufacturing clusters, we have the investment, we have the people, the talent, the skills, the managerial and the technical capabilities, we have all that. But if we take a slightly larger view, I think all of you will agree that while India's size of the chemical segment grew, so we were exporting $4 billion worth of chemicals 25 years ago in 2000. Today we are exporting something like 40 billion. So we should be very happy, yes, of course, 10 times growth. But you look at the import. So 25 years ago in 2000, we were importing 4 billion. Today we are importing 75 billion. So we have moved from a equal export import to a net importer. That is one thing I want to. So that means we are not moving in the right direction. That is first. Second, since I was in pharmaceuticals as Secretary in Government of India, during the pandemic, there was a lot of panic whether we will be able to provide the medicines for our people. You remember the panic with remdesivir and amphotericin, and those had become household names, names that we never knew before. What did they find at that time? We found that in India, we had become dependent to the extent of 85% on imports for certain active pharmaceutical ingredients from a single country. All of you know which country I'm talking about, right? So there was a huge degree of dependency. With that comes a huge vulnerability. Now, chemicals are as important as medical drugs because your chemicals are the inputs into a large number of industries. So we are also, I think, at the stage where we should be introspecting into what kind of chemicals we are making and able to export, and what kind of chemicals we are importing, and try to identify strategic gaps that as a industry or as a sector we should be able to address. So this is where I say that come away from the day-to-day running of a chemical business and identifying suppliers, handling technology and all. Think about as a country, because this is what is something that we can learn from some of the other countries, to think strategically over a 20-year framework of what we should be doing. That is one. Second is, what do we do with the feedstock that we have? Right? So in Gujarat, we have 104 MMTPA refinery capacity, if I'm not mistaken, 150 million metric tons per annum capacity of port capacity for chemicals and petrochemicals. But in the country, a large proportion of what we get from this feedstock goes into low value intermediates. So most of the propylene goes into polypropylene. Most of the ethylene, 90%, 85% goes into polyethylene. Most of the benzoids go into cyclobenzene. Most of the, so this is what we see, right? And this is much higher share going into low volume products than some of the other countries, and certainly the globe. So in the globe, maybe only 65% of ethylene is going into polyethylene, but in our country, 85% of ethylene is going into polyethylene. That means we are doing incremental processing. We are not capturing the full value of the feedstock that is coming into our industry. So this is the second issue which I feel as an industry we should be looking at. Are we milking the cow to the full extent? So first is, what are the gaps? Which type of chemicals we are dependent on? So have we got self-sufficiency where it matters? And second is, let's suppose in my house I am self-sufficient in Kaju, Badam, Pista, but I am dependent on chawal atta, on somebody else. That should not be the case. Second is, what do we do with the feedstock? Of course, I am sure many of you would also speak about the restriction or the constraints in accessing feedstock, but that apart. जब मिलता है feedstock, तो उसका करते क्या है? What do we do with it? That is the second. Third is, when we think about new investments or widening our portfolio, what are the customer segments we are looking at? What are the emerging segments? So in Gujarat, 40% of the new semiconductor investments are coming into Gujarat out of the Indian investments. So electronic chemicals, battery chemicals, automotive chemicals. Are we making efforts to start investing in these products? So here again, are we making chemicals only for the fertilizer industry and for the pigment industry, etc.? Or are we making chemicals for the new industries that are now coming not only into Gujarat, but India as a whole, and globally certain industries are growing. So this is the third point I wanted to make. Should I make a couple of more points or?
Sure, ma'am.
I
We
don't
want
know.
to take maximum advantage of your time.
So I'll just say one more thing. And the last, I think, strategic area where you can kind of examine if you feel is within the chemical industry. All of you would be aware we have the basic chemicals and all that. Specialty chemicals is the one which is doing well now at the moment, right? So what is our strength in specialty chemicals? Because even in the exports, this is the one segment where we don't have a gap. We are able to export as much as we are required to import. So specialty chemicals in Gujarat, what is the strength? Where are we lacking and where we should kind of invest? So when I say invest, I don't mean only money or capital, but also invest in terms of the talent and the research that may be required, right? In as a company, the technology and the research that required. So I identify these 3 to 4 opportunities or strategic gap that the industry should be looking at, and based on your inputs, it will help the industries department. They must be here. Industries department to ensure that these gaps are addressed in the policies that come out or this that come out. I would just like to say that I am not a fount of wisdom, but I advise everybody who is here to go to the Niti Aayog website, and Niti Aayog he's a friend of mine, Ishtiyaq Ahmed. So he has recently in July 2025 written a report on chemical sector for India. It is a good report. Everything that he has recommended may or may not happen, but at least the analysis is very good. So it's worth reading. I also spent some time on it.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, if you have a few more minutes, while we were having lunch, we were actually discussing about our education system and what we are doing in the real life. So at present, if you see, the children are not interested to study chemistry, pure chemistry, or pure physics, or pure biology, which we actually, if they study, they can go to research. Similarly, the people who are studying, say, engineering, they are actually not designing anything, they are just operating whatever is available. We are just becoming an operator, not a designer. So in this respect, I would like to get your views that what steps should government take to attract more R&D?
So this is one of my areas of interest. If you look again, as I said, not only one step back, but 2, 3, 4 jumps back if you take, and you see the history of human economy, right? So in the earliest civilization, your economic strength was based on how many cows you had. How many cows you had, that was your economic strength. इसके पास 1000 गाय है, इसके पास 50 गाय है, that was the strength. Then slowly it moved into natural resources. Do you have minerals? Do you have land? Do you have good agricultural crops, etc.? Then it moved into labor, which in fact also translated into the slave economy, unfortunately. Then capital. Now we talked about IT, so knowledge economy, and everybody now talks about Industry 4.0. But the most recent driver of economic growth is innovation. And innovation is a kind of a cousin to research. So if you do in a very, very academic and a very systematic manner, we call it research. But if you come up with new knowledge, what is research? Generating new knowledge, right? If you come up with a better way of doing something, more novel way of doing something, which can happen only in a shop floor, we call it innovation. So this generation has to focus on research. So no longer research is something that very staid and ekdam सीधा साधा लड़का लोग जाता है. It is not like that. Economic opportunities are in research and innovation today. So it is very comparatively easier to support industry with capital subsidy, with giving some PLI scheme, or giving some free land or low cost land than it is to support industry in research and innovation. But it is required. And here, I think, two or three aspects which can be taken into account, and there are now, as you know, Anusandhan schemes, that is the National Research Foundation, which has got a 1,100,000 crores outlay, of which 30 or something will come from government, rest has to come from industry. So government has already started supporting or recognizing the need to support. In chemical sector, research and innovation, we have very good national research institutions. They do not have access to real life situations, right? And industry, as I mentioned, are busy with the roj ka maramari jo hota hai ki aaj truck nahi nikla, aaj ye nahi hua, wo nahi hua, to pay attention to research or even invest in research. But what is important is what is called industry academia linkage. Again, it is a buzzword everybody uses. But I would encourage individual industries or industry association or local chambers to reach out to the research institutions or universities that are available in their clusters or in their area. Actually, these academic institutions, whether they are universities or research institutions, you would know IICT, right? Hyderabad IICT, you would know. IICT, if I'm not mistaken, did the research that led to the $1 drug for AIDS, in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken. It was a CSIR institution. I don't know if it is IICT or something else. $1 drug for AIDS, which was unthinkable. And Cipla is a company, no? Pharmacy. They took that and they, through WHO, UNICEF, etc., the AIDS pandemic in Africa could be controlled with that. It was research from a government research lab, but there was an industry partner ready to convert it into a commercial product and take it to the market. So the research or innovation comes only when industry and academia speak to each other. It is little difficult, let me tell you, because both have got a different world view, right? So you go and talk to some associate professor, uska to horizon alag hai, way of thinking alag hai, he has got a pakka tenure, everything, why is he going to take any risk, right? So it is difficult, but I feel building, so instead of asking government to build industry academia linkage, where possible, jahan ho sakta hai, aap jahan ho, where you are, reach out and try to build this linkage. It can be done, as I said, at unit level, it can be done at local chamber level. At least start sitting together and talking, that is one. Regarding the youngsters not going into research, at the end of the day, the youngsters will go where the expectations lead them, right? So, in our generation, I may be little older to most of you, but if you were a girl, you went and became a doctor. And if you are a guy, you went and did engineering. Ye do cheez tha. There was only two things for bright students. Today, that is not the case. Bright students, and many of you must be having school-going children, are exploring new areas, which did not exist 1 or 2 generations back. So you cannot force youngsters to go into ABC degree courses. At least in our age, we used to do what our father told, no? But that is not now the case. We cannot do it. So we have to create an environment where youngsters are able to be excited by the opportunities that lie in research as a career. We have to create. It's not a single man's job. So it is a big, I agree with you that it is a big challenge, but it's also critical. There again, how does industry reach out to academia? Have you adopted your chemical department of the University of Veer Narmad? Any of you has adopted that? Or if you are in Baroda, have you adopted the chemistry department of MSU? Have we done it? How often we have gone there? Have we requested, please send your students for internship? Or we will give problem statements to your students if they have to write dissertation in post-graduation, or we will offer problem statements for your PhD students. We will come as a viva voce judges for your PhD, dissertation, viva voce, etc. This kind of, instead of waiting for academia to come to us, industry, उनका वो क्या बोलते हैं गरज बोलते हैं ना हिंदी में. It is in our interest for industry to move forward. That is my humble opinion. That is not to say that government should not be creating the ecosystem, etc. But without waiting for that, if you want to do something, I suggest something as simple as reaching out to chemistry departments, biochemistry departments, because when you are talking about emerging sectors, biochemicals are going to become a big sector, right, in chemicals. So I suggest that. That is my, of course, very two bits. I have not studied this at large, but in pharma, we have tried to create this kind of an ecosystem.
Thank you, ma'am. Actually, what I have seen, 140 crores is our population, and we all got saved because of R&D by vaccination. So if that vaccination would not have been coming out from the research and development, we all would have been in trouble, and maybe people would have blackmailed us for giving us a vaccination. So I would request government actually to create a pandemic-like situation so that industry and the research comes together and work together, and it gets a boost. So now I think we are coming almost to the close of this thing. Can we have one or two questions from the audience, or we conclude? What is your...
I think 1 or 2 should be fine.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, please. Would you like to come forward?
As I mentioned, if you look at that Niti Aayog report, right? Government of India takes Niti Aayog reports seriously, so we can take it as somewhat credible. They have suggested setting up centers of excellence. So in pharmaceuticals, I had earlier 3 years ago, we had a scheme called Promotion of Research and Innovation in Pharma and Medical Devices. So we have 7 national institutes of pharmaceuticals. We have given them 100 crore each to set up center of excellence and work with industry. Work with industry, right? Because if you have a scheme or if you have a formal framework, you can sort out these issues about data privacy, etc. That is what I feel. And second, I would say, things don't happen only because government does, right? In every industry, there will be 2 or 3 people who are thinking forward, right? When whole world was working on mRNA vaccine, one Gujarati company spent crores to work on DNA vaccine. You people may be aware. Aisa admi chahiye. You need people like this in every industry who will try to say, okay, I have earned enough, let me take risk. So out of 5% or 10% of my revenues, I will invest in R&D and try to do something which I have not done before. So such people are there in every industry, and certainly they would be there. I mean, Atul is also here. I have been in Valsad for a long time. Kanubai is a very good friend of mine. So these are the industries that will always come forward. They will not wait. Koi hamare liye kare, somebody does for us, and that will happen. So it is the ability of the industry, of individual industrialists to recognize the winds of change and respond to them. Otherwise, we perish.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
I
Yes,
would
ma'am.
also would like to add just a few words, because I fully agree with what Madam said, that the key is in R&D, and the future is in R&D, and we cannot invest enough in R&D, whether it's in India, in Europe. So of course, you have a lot of brains, very intelligent minds in India. Feel free to also consider doing R&D, joint R&D with partners abroad. In Flanders, in Belgium, we have a lot of research institutes as well who would love to learn from your experience, compare it with our experience, and then work towards the future. So if ever any of you want to be connected to research institutes in Belgium without any strings attached, happy to do the matchmaking for you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Can we conclude now? So actually, after listening to so many things, I got some hint. There was talk about feedstock. There was talk about IICT. So it just happened to me that because I have been researching a lot on how to convert coal to chemicals. So coal is one thing which is abundantly available in India, and we will not be dependent upon crude for whatever wars which take place and all these things. And if we can and IICT has actually done research on all the coals, ma'am. I went to IICT and I had seen that all coals of India have been put into the reactor and they have researched it, but that is lying there. So now is the time, I think we have to dig out all these research papers from IICT, try to put up a coal-based, coal to chemicals plant rather, and that will give us an immense advantage over depending upon crude or other feedstocks which are coming from abroad. So coal to syngas, and syngas से तो कुछ भी बना सकते हैं. Syngas, we call it as, in chemical engineering we call it as bricks. वो ईटा मिल गया तो आप उसको mansion भी बना सकते हैं, जोगर झुपड़ी बना सकते हैं, कुछ भी बना सकते हैं. So CO and hydrogen is the one which can convert anything. So that is one of the things which I wanted to conclude. Thank you, ma'am. And I think we are on time.
Yes, we are.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you all. Ma'am, I'd like to be seated just a few minutes more. Thank you all, the esteemed panelists, for such an enriching and forward-looking discussion. Today's conversation clearly highlighted that the future of India's chemical and petrochemical sector will be shaped by sustainability-led growth, circular economy adoption, innovation-driven manufacturing, strategic policy support, and stronger global collaboration. There was also a very strong emphasis on how South Gujarat continues to evolve beyond being only a manufacturing base into an integrated industrial ecosystem capable of driving next generation industrial growth. As a prominent personality rightly said, in the new world, it is not the big fish which eats the small fish, it's a fast fish which eats the slow fish. And today's discussion strongly reinforced the importance of agility, adaptability, and future readiness. Ladies and gentlemen, let us once again give a huge round of applause for all our panelists over here. And I would like to now
One
give
small
a
thing
small
I wanted
memento.
to add, if we could have AI recording all our conversation and give a gist of it, it becomes more fruitful.
I'm sure that's possible in today's world. Now I would like to give a small memento. I would like to request Shri Amit Dharwa sir to please come on stage and present a small memento to Ma'am Shri Miss Aparna. A huge round of applause. Thank you for your presence, ma'am. Your inputs have been tremendously beneficial. Thank you once again for coming here today. Now I'd like to invite Amit Dharwa sir to please facilitate Miss Eva. Shri Amit Dharwa sir is facilitating Miss Eva. Thank you, ma'am, for coming here today and giving your point of view. It matters. I'd like to invite Shri D.M. Rana sir to please come on stage and present the memento to Shri Shailesh Nigam sir. A huge round of applause for Shri Shailesh Nigam sir. Sir, I would also request you to present the memento to Shri Manish Kiri sir. Shri D.M. Rana sir is going to give a memento to Shri Manish Kiri sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your presence today. I'd like to invite Mr. Kundan Patel on stage and to present the memento to Shri Shamal De sir. I think Ms. Arpita Parmar is presenting to Shri Shamal De sir. I would also like to invite Ms. Arpita Parmar again on stage to present Shri Madhukar Rao sir. Thank you so much. I think, sir, the way you held the whole conversation really helped to understand all the nuances. Thank you so much. A huge round of applause for all the panelists. Thank you for being here today. You may take your seats now.
Yeah, thanks to her, she conducted really well.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now, can we have a group photo, please? Excuse me. Please take it in, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. We now move on to the next important segment of the program, MOU exchange and sanction letter distribution ceremony. Today's MOUs represent not just investments. I would request everyone to please take your seats. I would request everyone to please take your seats. We are now moving on to the MOU exchange ceremony. Today's MOU represent not just investments, but confidence in Gujarat's industrial ecosystem and in the long-term growth potential for South Gujarat. These initiatives together represent proposed investments of approximately 2,050 crores and expected to generate nearly 750 employment opportunities. The first MOU is with the Ester Loop Infinite Technologies Private Limited, Wagra, Bharuch. A huge round of applause. This proposed greenfield chemical recycling project for polyester waste represents an investment. Please come on stage, sir. Waste represents an investment approximately of 1,600 crores and is expected to generate around 500 employment opportunities. This initiative is a joint venture between Ester Industries and Loop Industries Canada. May I now request Shri Himanshu Joshi, sir, Manager GIDC, and Mr. Ayush Vardhan Singhania, Director, Ester Loop Infinite Technologies Private Limited, to please come on the stage for the MOU exchange. A huge round of applause. This is a big moment. Yes. Congratulations and thank you very much, sir. The second MOU is with Ether Industries GIDC, Surat. This project focuses on specialty chemicals and intermediates manufacturing with proposed investment of 450 crores and expected employment generation of around 250 opportunities. May I request again Shri Himanshu Joshi, sir, Manager GIDC, and Mr. Faiz Nagaria, Chief Financial Officer, Ether Industries Limited. A huge round of applause. Thank you very much, sir. We now proceed with the distribution of sanction orders under the Common Environment Infrastructure Scheme of Gujarat Industrial Policy 2020. This initiative reinforces Gujarat's commitment towards environmentally responsible and sustainable industrial growth. May I request Amit Dharwa sir to please come on stage and present the three sanction letters. First, I would like to invite on stage all three sanction orders of 27.29 crores of financial assistance under Common Environmental Infrastructure Scheme of Gujarat. This scheme provides a financial assistance for developing and strengthening common environmental infrastructure facilities. And the first section order with assistance sanction is 1301 lakhs by Industries and Mines Department, Government of Gujarat, to Mr. Dipen Bankar, Director, Ms. Hindustan Eco Life Projects Private Limited. A huge round of applause. Next, we have the section order with assistance sanction of rupees 978 lakhs by Industries and Mines Department, Government of Gujarat, will be given to Mr. Udayan Gaur, Director, Chemo Kandori Arpet Private Limited, Wagra, District Bharuch. And the last section order with assistance sanction of rupees 450 lakhs by Industries and Mines Department, Government of Gujarat, will be given to Mr. Sachin Jogani, Nilkant Enviro Projects Private Limited, Bharuch. Congratulations to all of them. We now move to our second panel discussion on global competitiveness of Indian chemical and petrochemical industry. India today stands at a very important industrial inflation point with strong domestic demand, policy support and expanding export capabilities and rapidly improving infrastructure. India is increasingly positioning itself as a global manufacturing and chemical hub, and South Gujarat remains central to all this transformation. As a prominent speaker rightly said, scale and speed are the twin engines of progress, and that perfectly captures India's industrial momentum today. This panel will therefore explore how India can strengthen competitiveness through innovation, technology adoption, logistics, sustainability, and global partnerships. Once again, a humble request to all our panelists to kindly keep the remarks concise so that we can comfortably maintain the flow of the program. I would like to invite all the panelists one by one. The first is Shri Paritosh Sir Divasali. Please come on stage. Director and Head, Central Institute of Petrochemicals Engineering and Technology, Ahmedabad. He serves with the distinction as the Director. Mr. Sir has helmed projects of profound industrial and strategic significance. His vision is extended to the establishment of controlled testing facilities at Ahmedabad, reinforcing the nation's capacity for sustainable materials and evaluation. A huge round of applause for Sir. I would like to invite Mr. Himanshu Joshi to please come on stage and welcome Sir with a flower bouquet. Shri Hamid Dharwa Sir to please come on stage to welcome Sir, Shri Paritosh Sir. A huge round of applause. Next, I would like to invite our next panel, Shri Daljit Singh Kohli, to please come on stage. India representative for Port of Antwerp Burgess, with a degree in civil engineering followed by an MBA in marketing and a master of financial analysis. A true trade facilitator, Sir brings more than 20 years of experience in the industry. A huge round of applause. I'd like to invite again Shri Amit Dharwa Sir to please come on stage and welcome Sir. Next panelist, we have Shri B. M. Patel, President and Chief Operating Officer, DCM Shri Ram Limited, Bharuch. Previously represented DuPont as a consultant, providing strategic insights and implementation support to leading companies including Tata Group, IOCL, and Reliance. CEO of the Year, Indian Achievers Award 2024, recognized by the Indian Achievers Forum for outstanding professional achievement and contribution to nation building. A huge round of applause for Sir. I'd like to invite Shri D.M. Rana, General Manager, Sir, to please come on stage and present the flowers. So please be here only. I'd like to invite our next panelist, Shri Dinesh Dusane, Head Strategy and Planning, Deepak Group. With over 25 years of experience across strategy, business development, and industrial investment planning, he drives growth initiatives, strategic partnerships, and long-term competitiveness for Deepak Group in India and global markets. A chemical engineer with an MBA, Sir has previously worked with Morgan Stanley, Reliance Industries, Sasol, and many other. Thank you, sir, for please coming today. I would again like to invite Shri D.M. Rana, sir, to please come and present the flowers. Our next panelist is Shri Amit Dharwa, sir, whom we all know. So please come on stage, sir. Without his presence, this event wouldn't have been possible. So there is no introduction needed for him. I'd like to invite Ms. Arpita Parmar to please come on stage and present the flowers to sir. Thank you, sir, so much for all your hard work done today. The event has been a success and you have been the major backbone for it. And now I would like to invite our moderator for the panel discussion, Shri Pinal Mehta, Director, Grant Thornton Bharat LLP, Mumbai, Maharashtra. He is a seasoned professional with 23 plus years of experience, including 17 plus of experience in energy, natural resources, petrochemicals, and chemical sectors within consulting. He specializes in market entry strategy, commercial due diligence, cost optimization, transformation business planning. Mr. Mehta has led multiple strategic assignments such as feasibility studies, market assessments, business plans, and policy advisory projects across India. And we welcome here to be the moderator for the event. Can I invite again Mr. Kundan Patel or Ms. Arpita Parmar to please come on stage and present the flowers. Thank you so much, sir. I think over to you now. I would like you to take it forward for the next panel discussion. Sir, is it working? Not working? Can anyone please check?
I think it's working.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so
sir.
much. Good afternoon, everyone. Pinal Mehta here, and very warm welcome, everyone. Right, and then it's privileged to share this stage with such a group of experts who are from industries, who also provides policy support, and also they are actually kind of helping the industry grow, right? And then while we are discussing, the global competitiveness of Indian chemicals and petrochemical sector in India, right? It's there's a a space for setting a context here, right? And just to set the context here, India is actually becoming a global player in terms of the chemicals and petrochemical practices. However, we are moving or basically transitioning from cost competitiveness to the capability driven technology, right? And to whether it's sufficient here or it's not sufficient, we are going to discuss those aspects here. And Gujarat actually has led through cluster and policy support across sectors, and Gujarat has been the front runner in this case. The question is today, are we truly globally competitive in this space, or we are not? Because we've also learned from the previous panel, there are three S, right, that actually drives this global competitiveness. One is the supply chain reliability. Second is the sustainability. And the third is, of course, the specialization. So we heard a lot about, specialty chemicals and specialization that we should move into. So I think these are the three, aspects that we should focus on. And we are going to, discuss all these three aspects in this panel, right? And on that context, let me bring the global perspective here. So we have Mr. Kohli here, who represents Antwerp and Bruges, basically. And we wanted to understand, Antwerp Bruges basically, provides a deep integration in terms of supply chain, in terms of logistics, in terms of refining and petrochemicals also. So the question is, how India can, also replicate the similar model, and very specifically in Gujarat, how we can take this forward.
Thank you very much. I think a relevant question after the first panel, I think, and I'll just give some reference before I start my talk about it. I think the first panel before this also discussed upon how we need to build this chemical cluster in in India. And it doesn't have to be only just looking at your own company and, making the supply chain or making a manufacturing processes in efficient. You need to look at an overall ecosystem. What's the next ecosystem? Whether you can supply your products to your customer at the best logistical cost, whether you can export your products, how well can you produce, how can you optimize your solutions. So I'll bring that perspective into it. And if you know, Antwerp is also the largest integrated chemical cluster in Europe, the second largest in the world after Houston. And we've not just built this cluster over time. It's been built over years. Now, if you we started building this cluster after the Second World War, and it is now where it is. So it's taken almost 75 years of that whole effort that takes to build that cluster. Now, just give you a background, we are a landlord port. We have all the big companies in the port area. All these companies like BASF, Total, ExxonMobil, all have production facilities in the port area. Now, what do? We set up a lot of infrastructure for them. We have talks with them because when we have to scale up, we need to understand what are the requirements of the industry. So it's all started from a vision, and it has to have a proper vision, which is a continued vision. You cannot have a vision for 2 years. You need to have a long-term vision for it. And how do you sustain to that vision? Now, earlier it was about setting up this chemical cluster, but now also whenever we put a vision, we have a vision for next 20, 30 years we talk about. That's one of the key parameters. The second is, how do we set up this whole infrastructure for them? Now, you can set up in India, if you see, we don't have much of port-led industrialization. Most of our ports, apart from, JNPT, which is landlord port now, all our ports are operated by the government or private operators. The industry is outside the port area. Now, that also helps you, that also increases the cost of, logistics, which is also important. Now, you got to work with the industry. We work with the industry very closely because all these big players need a lot of support, a lot of interest that is happening. We need to work unilaterally with them actually to set up what is the next phase. We cannot do it like, saying, okay, we'll set up this infrastructure and you come along. We need to work with them because we need to look at also the investments that are coming into the board. Now, coming to the point of integration, I said that we are an integrated chemical cluster. Now, when we look at investments into the port area, we probably preferably look at investments which are the missing links in the port area. For example, one of the companies may be producing a product. The product can be a raw material for another. We look at that value chain that is prevalent in the port area. Now, we can also add up a lot of other products, but then the value chain gets disturbed. So whenever we're looking at investments, we try to see if there is a kind of a missing link that we can add up. That's the last. Just one point more. It's more about the innovation we talk about, because innovation can only just setting up and it doesn't happen. We need to provide that infrastructure. And innovation in the port, we also encourage a lot of these incubators that come in the port to actually set up and then see where the next phase of work is going.
Right, and on the innovation front, definitely you have innovation zones, right? So how does that scale up the new technologies? If you can please throw some light on that.
So, I know ma'am did raise about that point that we need to, somebody, I'm not sure who, but they mentioned about how do we encourage new generation to get into R&D and all those operations. So it also has to be with the backing of a kind of an ecosystem. Now, we have an area in the port, which was General Motors factory. We completely flattened it out. We have now developed that zone as a thing called as the next gen district. Now, what does the next gen district do? We are a landlord port, so we have to give that land away for some of the developments. We give it to companies which are only into circular economy. particularly doing work on green chemistry, circular economy. We don't give it to anyone else. Adjacent to the circular economy zone, we have developed an area called as Next Gen Demo. Now, this is an area where we give that land particularly for startups, scale-ups who are slightly ahead in the value chain and want to really experiment or work on their products in a kind of a semi-live environment. And once they do that, they can move into the next gen district. Uh, any R&D or any work in the industry is actually very good in the lab. The moment you bring it to the industry, there is where your solutions have to really deliver. Now, we also try to encourage, there is an incubator called BlueChem. Now, this is a startup incubator, but we have seen that a lot of these chemical majors are taking space in that incubator. Now, what does that work? Because when the majors they actually see what is happening there with the new age developments. That also brings a lot of respect and trust between the two agencies, and then they can pick up those solutions. One more we have is called as a plug and play, where we look at industry challenges and bring it to global innovation. So the platform is open for global innovation companies to come and actually look at the industry challenges and the port challenges and build technologies around that. So when we create that atmosphere, I think that is where innovation really succeeds.
Sure, sure. And this clearly, relates to the conversation that we had in earlier panel, the collaboration between industry and the academia, basically, or the research institute. And next, we all have seen, post-COVID, the role of multimodal approach or the logistic that we've seen. And we believe, Antwerp and Bruce, you are also kind of, excelling in that aspect. So if you can throw some light on that.
I think interesting because when we say multimodal logistics, we always look at truck, train, but at the port, we have, as I mentioned, we are a landlord port. All the terminals are privately owned. We have 5 deep sea terminals in Antwerp and 1 in Zeebrugge. Now, all these terminals are connected to almost 3 to 4 modes of transportation. One is truck, the second one is barges and short sea routes. The third one is obviously rail network, and the fourth one is pipelines. Now, when I say pipelines, this is very important because of the chemical cluster. We have 1,000 kilometers of pipeline just in the port area, transporting almost 50 different type of chemicals. Waterways, we do almost 45% of distribution across Europe with waterways. Now, if you compare that to India, we are almost 2 to 3%. So that's a massive difference. And that's the most economical and sustainable mode of transportation. Rail, we are developing more rail network. We're already at 8%, we're doubling it by 2030. Truck, definitely we cannot avoid that because trucking is the end mile delivery thing. But when I say multimodal, the benefits that you see is obviously faster turnarounds. You're not totally depending on the truck network. You have multimodal transportation. The visibility is on digital platforms. The customer can see what is his product, what price it is going in, what are the options available. And also in terms of disruptions, you need to have a kind of an alternate source of movement because you can't just completely rely. Suppose something happens at the terminal and your trucks are completely jammed. You need to move your products out to make sure that the port is decongested, the turnarounds are faster, the operations are smooth. So if you don't do those, I think that is where we need more and more of these multimodal transportations to pick in.
Sure, sure. And we clearly witnessed these aspects, right? When the COVID happened in the Northeast India, actually some of the PSUs used this multimodal approach and transported the LPG cylinders. They loaded on the rail and they loaded the trucks on the rail and transported. So this is clearly, a good case for us to move into that. So understanding the global perspective, let me bring in the industry perspective now. So Mr. Dusane, if you can, highlight, what will it take for India to basically, become a global competitive partner and a preferred global partner in this space?
Okay, I think good afternoon, everyone, first of all, and for the opportunity to be part of this esteemed panel and sharing my thoughts on behalf of Deepak Group. So when we talk about becoming a globally competitive player, I think we all heard about in the first panel as well, some of this data that also throws light around how growing Indian consumer industries, what role chemical industry is playing in that. When we are talking about 250 to 300 billion consumption market of chemicals and petrochemicals going up to almost $1 trillion dollar market by 2040. And we also thankfully heard Aparna Madam also talking about how this has been also being supported more by imports than the domestic capacity. So why our domestic capacities have not been able to really keep up the pace with the growing demand of the Indian chemicals and petrochemicals? And one of the main reason is also that at some point in time India was growing, but at the same the kind of capacities that were required for majority of the basic and bulk intermediates were not up to the scale wherein Indian players could start thinking of putting capacity. Wherever there was scale available, I think a lot of entrepreneurs already had taken advantage, whether it is in the upstream part of it, refinery, some of these large scale bulk petrochemicals. When we talked about, Madam also talked about actually, thankfully again, and Niti Aayog has talked about that in the report in detail, how some of these basic feedstocks or building blocks, the way we called it, whether it is propylene or ethylene, globally 50 to 60% get converted into polyethylene or polypropylene. In India, it was almost 95 to 100% was getting converted. So when, as a Deepak, when 10 years back or 15 years back, they started working on phenol and for which propylene was a necessity, there was no propylene available because majority of these refiners or petrochemical players were converting that into polypropylene. So creating even a phenol-based competitive play in India, when in last 10 years back there was opportunity and Deepak took that mantle. We are still importing, bringing propylene from a long distance. We don't have the propylene pipeline connectivity, which Madam also talked about and Mr. Kohli also talked about in his, that all the chemical clusters need some of these basic building blocks to be transported by pipeline so that it also brings in competition. So though now we are actually established this plant and we are operating it for last almost 8 to 10 years now. We are still, we are competing with a lot of global players, but at the same time, that's the disadvantage we are still facing. And when we are working on some of these, overcoming some of the challenges, we also work and work with the government. We are working with both state and central government, wherein how some of these bottlenecks can be sorted. And as a player and as a strategy, we always look at then the scale is a one factor, and then the integration of feedstock by pipeline integration, and another way of integrating and creating a competitiveness is going more and more downstream. So that's another play for the Indian players is to look at where are the opportunities wherein these import dependent value chains are missing and where India is completely dependent on imports, and how do we start creating those value chains in India. From Deepak's example, we are working on, say, for phenol, but then we also knew that being only a standalone phenol player will not take us too far. So going into the polycarbonate, which is again a value chain downstream integration approach, was a must from that perspective. And then we took that, and we are now investing more than $1 billion into going into the downstream, because that's the only model that will allow us to remain competitive and sustainable in a world wherein countries like China or earlier Northeast Asia, whether Japan and Korea, had put so much capacities in all these, and they are actually supporting Indian market via import. So if we want to displace them, we'll have to create those integrated value chains, and that integrated value chain has to be also, to remain competitive, also to be based on your own core. So it's not that you need to go into everywhere, integration for the sake of integration. Like for the backward integration, it will not be possible for a player like Deepak also to get into the propylene of their own. So we also tied up and made a collaboration with, say, Petrochemicals, who are putting up a plant, and we are also getting a pipeline connectivity. Maybe not today, last 7 years we are operating without pipeline, but in 3 years time, in next 3 years, we will have that connectivity. So as an entrepreneur, Indian players are taking risks, and they are they are taking, they are trying to build some of these businesses and value chains in India. But that's just one example. And similarly, there are a lot of opportunities for chemical players to work on some of these import dependent value chains. I think Niti Aayog report also talks about building play in India to remain competitive based on this value chain based approach. And creating only a standalone plants may not allow us to remain globally competitive in times to come. So it has to be a scale, world scale plants, and they have to be integrated well enough for them to remain resilient for next 25, 30 years.
Right, right. So idea is, to stay connected and stay integrated. I think that's the major learning that we have, right, from the section 1. And which brings us to the next section, which talks about, how or what India should focus further, if we have to, compete globally. And this is again to Mr. Dusani, you again, right? In terms of, what are the critical enablers, right, for India to become, or for Gujarat to become the global competitor in the market?
I think, again, giving example of Deepak and how Gujarat has attracted Deepak into Gujarat in a way. I mean, if many of you might be knowing, Deepak is one of the oldest company in Gujarat with more than 50 years legacy. And we had, but at the same time, it was being operated from the head office set up in Pune till 2010, 2011. So when we started looking at investing more and more, the only state that came to mind was Gujarat and Dahej, and that actually also propelled us to relocate our entire head office to Vadodara and be more closer to the state, which is also offering so many opportunities, especially in the chemical industry. Gujarat's leading position in the chemical industry is well known, so I may not have to repeat that. But having said that, with the leading position also comes expectations. So when we also now want to keep taking a next phase of the growth, we also have to look at how some of these global industries have really worked. You know, all these within chemical clusters, there is a concept of chemical parks, which are very integrated and which are not like run by a standalone player, but it is what Mr. Kohli also mentioned about the cluster-based approach. But within that, different players have different roles, and not everybody is not duplicating or replicating the what to say capacities. You know, I mean, so if, for example, all the chemical players need steam, so not everyone is putting steam boilers for the steam. You know, I mean, in Singapore, Jurong Island, or in China, many there are steam being supplied by pipeline. So how do we look at some of these models and try and replicate that in the Indian context, which may not be possible in the larger PCPIR? But it is obviously possible, and what Niti Aayog has also recommended and budget has approved, the 3 chemical parks, which will be a lot more, what to say, relatively smaller, like maybe around 2,000 to 2,005 acre parcels of land, which are going to develop not only the large scale plants, but also then on that basis, the specialty plant. So all those will only happen and work more in a collaborative and interdependent manner when some of this policy framework from the state and central also supports the industry in taking position in some of these it's creating more innovative business models rather than everyone operating independently, all the industries. So how do we come collaborate not only between the government and the individual industry player, but also multiple industry players coming together and finding their own core to support each other and grow in their own core chemistries and core value chains.
Correct, correct. And to some extent, I think Gujarat has actually kind of, created that opportunity in terms of cluster development, right? But let me just move to the next point, digital competitiveness. Of course, we heard some of the audience asking the questions around. So it's a question for the Patel, right? In terms of, digital competitiveness, specifically into chemicals industry, what role AI or automation can actually play, and it can actually, from operational standpoint, it can improve the operational efficiency.
Yeah. Thank you, Pinal. Very, very good afternoon. Earlier panel talked about Industries 4.0. And what is Industries 4.0 is blend of what Pinal said. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, automation, digitalization. So the role of digitalization is nowadays digital cannot be one subset function of the manufacturing organization. It's a strategic function to drive the manufacturing space from reactive manufacturing to predictive manufacturing. And I'm saying predictive manufacturing means where you can predict what can be your safety performance, how can be your quality, how you can track your sustainability and ESG reporting, how can you predict your cost of productions, how can you predict your demands, how can you integrate entire right from sourcing to sales logistic value chain. So this is what Industries 4.0 can do, and that is why I'm saying it is not just a merely function of manufacturing organization, but it is a strategic function. Right. Yeah, when I talk about the digitalization, so many of you may not be aware about what is digitalization, what is AI, what is automation. So in the simple language, digitalization is nothing but what you are doing manually in the paperwork. You replace your paperwork through some form of digital system, like emails. Earlier we were using postcards and inland letters. Now it is replaced by email. That's a digitalization. And that can help you improve your safety, quality, reliability, predictive maintenance, everything.
artificial intelligence is beyond our human intelligence. Human intelligence can think up to certain extent and sometimes in the simplistic manner. But if you have a complex production processes, big petchem plants, multi-purpose plant where one factory facility have 100 products with multiple changeovers are there, human intelligence can have a limitations in the thinking, which can be replaced by artificial intelligence. And automations, I am sure most of you are aware about automation. It is a replacement of the repetitive or rule-based working, but it will help improving safety, quality, and environment, and the cost of production.
Right. And the next question is, we are observing or we are witnessing, a lot of volatility in the market, be it war or, other events that has happened. And you rightly mentioned about the components of supply chain, right? So how do we actually, build the resilience in supply chain with the help of AI, if you can highlight?
Yeah, thanks. This is very nice question. So let me give you an example because we are running India's largest chloroalkali plant with backed by 5 value-added products. When I'm saying largest means 2,225 tons per day capacity of caustics, and caustic has co-products which all put together put 5,000 ton per day volume. And this plant was built back in 1996. So there are certain legacy infrastructure in the system. And plant is now, as we are talking about, 30 years old. So a lot of experience-based, intuition-based decisions were made by the people, those who are now about to superannuate, and now a lot of Gen Z people are coming over there. And Gen Z people do not want to have intuition-based or experience-based decision-making. So we thought of we should have some kind of better systems which help us Gen Z employees to take decisions. And that is how we came out with a program called BLAST. BLAST is acronyms is becoming lighthouse through exemplary safety systems and excellence in digitalization system. And that is how we decided. And when I said supply chains, right from sourcing to selling. So we source a lot of raw material and we sell couple of products. And in between there is a manufacturing. So we build some model based on the past data we have, build the optimizer model on production, build the optimizer on buying, build the optimizer model on demand forecasting, and all these 3 models were integrated together, which will help reduce our inventory cost by, when I'm saying inventory cost means the working capital by around 10 to 15%. Efficiency of the production went up by around 2 to 5%. Maintenance downtime reduced by around 3%. And maintenance, when I'm saying maintenance downtime reduced, what we have done for that building digital is, we were in this is a very large site. And I'm 45,000 to 47,000 documents were there. And one maintenance engineer or a production engineer have to look for the answer during the breakdown, what went wrong, where I can find those documents. So what was done in the digitalization program is all those 47,000 documents were uploaded and created our internal chat GPT, which is specific to the DCM Sriram plant. So now engineers are using those tablets, posting the questions, and they will have 4 or 5 solutions. Now they have to narrow down the one root cause out of these 4. And that is how even maintenance time to report is reduced by 30%. And the demand forecasting like war, and so we build certain model for demand forecasting considering customer behavior, how customer put the orders during the summertime, during the winter time, whether flex, whether lie, and the seasonality of the sourcing side. That model also helped us reducing our overall turnaround time from end to end, logistic to logistic, by 13%. Correct. With all these things, improvement efficiency, we touched upon sustainability, not just the efficiency, not the cost. If you are improving efficiency, you are reducing the energy consumptions. And that energy consumption ultimately reduce your CO2 emissions. And that was reduced by 14%.
Great. I think, that's the kind of, showcases or, technology adoption that we would like to see more industry. And I would like to add to, as a consultant, we undertook one of the transformation exercise for one of the PSU, right? And again, the issue was on demand forecasting, right? So the current model was actually forecasting accuracy of around 80 to 83%. And that also at a pan-India level, right? Now in India, if you understand, in south, north, east, west, we have different weather patterns. We have festivals, right? Which will definitely have the impact on the demand. So what we did is, we looked at the region-wise demand forecasting. We employed machine learning into that. Fortunately, we had data for that, right? Data was lying in SAP and other systems. So we looked at that, and just for 1 quarter, we could save 100 crores. Just imagine the amount of, and again, it has a direct linkage with the entire supply chain components, like right from feedstock procuring, right, which is coming from the Middle East, the logistics, like the vessel scheduling, the storage of it. So all the supply chain components were actually covered, and we could save. So that's another example I wanted to add.
Finally,
to
if
that,
I
yeah.
can ask questions to you, what was the cost base of 100 crore saving in a quarter?
No. So it was less than a percent. Yeah. So I can answer that. And moving into that, while we are talking about the specialty chemicals, right? So again, the question to you, time to the market, takes, so faster we deploy our products in the market, the more advantageous or competitive that we will be in the global. So how AI and digitalization can help in doing that?
So like in earlier panel, Kirisab said specialty chemical plants are not, it's a capex light model, asset light model. Not big plant, but small plant, but producing multiple products. So kind of multi-purpose plant. And time to market is key. So changeover time is also key. And if you are developing molecule from development stage to taking it to the commercial stage, that is also very key. So I worked for earlier company called PI and UPL, where we were at that time in the CRAMS businesses. So during that time, I'm talking about 25 years back, at that time, laboratory experimentation is first, which is must, and trial and error. This was the approach, and that is how those experimentation and product development were happening during those days. But now, Gen Z cannot think of having lab trial and errors. They don't have passions. They don't have even perseverance. So all those research paper, now like I said in the maintenance, we have developed Gen AI model, and another model is agentic AI, where you don't have to think even, you just upload your PDFs or Excels, and that agentic AI will give you certain ideas. So in this kind of case, I have not experienced, but this is my strong belief that this can be done. You put all your thesis into the agentic AI factory. Agentic AI factory will tell you which reaction kinetics should be taken care of here, which solvent should be used, what impurities profiling can be coming in this particular model, experimentation. Based on this, your time can be reduced from earlier it was used to 4 to 5 years to now the months. And the scale up, nowadays very good software, simulation softwares are available. You can scale up your heat transfer, mass transfer, mixings, temperature profiling. So in nutshell, all earlier which 4 to 5 years was time to convert product from discovery stage to the commercialized stage. Now you can do it in less than a year.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, right. So with this, let me move to the next phase or the next section, which is on the sustainability. So in my, opening remark, I said there are 3 S, right? One is sustainability, the specialization we spoke about, and the supply chain. Supply chain also we spoke about. In terms of sustainability, so my question is to Mr. Divasali, right? What practical roadmap, the plastics industry specifically can undertake, right? Which can actually, lead to the circular economy.
Very good afternoon to all of you. As far as plastic is concerned, there is always hue and cry, the plastic creates pollution, and there are a lot of myth about plastics. The one very fundamental thing what Indian industry is doing compared to across the world, we are one of the major recycling clusters available in our country, which is doing fantastic work, but that is mechanical recycling. The major issue is because our plastic waste is commingled. segregation is not proper, and because of that, we are not able to generate value-added recycling. That is a major change. Government of India is always trying to support these particular clusters and activity across the India through plastic parks and other things. Institute like us, but we are also there to support industry to enhance their knowledge in various areas of the recycling, not only with the mechanical recycling. We also support on the chemical recycling and other areas also, waste to energy generation. That is the last alternate what we generally promote. Reason is, if we do not want to deplete the resources, because when we convert plastic into energy, definitely it is a resource depletion. So we generally advocate mechanical recycling or chemical recycling. That is what CPET is. As far as the plastic industry is concerned, definitely industry is doing very well in this area. But the general public habit in India is somewhere not supportive to convert this plastic in a value-added recycling. That is the major challenge. But anyway, there are many government teams and government initiatives are there. They are actually educating the people how to handle the wet waste and dry waste, and even for the plastics. There are symbols available on the plastic packaging and all. And slowly, their awareness is creating among the stakeholders. And I hope in near future we will be able to do in a better way.
Sure, sure. And then next question could be, slightly difficult one. We're talking about degradable plastics and basically, bioplastics. But when this question comes, the question is always about the cost competitiveness, right? Are these cost effective, right? So according to what role this biodegradable plastics can play without impacting the cost?
The major challenge with the when you talk about biodegradable, we generally prepare or in the ministry also, it is a controlled compostable plastic. In India, as such, as on date, we have not certified any plastic product as a biodegradable plastic. Some standards are there, they are tentative standards. They are not adopted by the CPC and all. But there is one standard which we have adopted from ISO, and which is ISO IS 17088. That is a standard under which we CPET and as well as IIP both are doing testing and certifying the various plastic products as a control component. As far as the cost is concerned, definitely when we talk about cost, the major challenge is not cost, but the challenge is with the performance characteristics of that product. So when we compare the performance of the available plastic from the fossil fuel and the plastic which is available from PLA, PBAT base, there are major difference in the performance. So that performance actually limits the use of that particular product in every application. Nowadays in India, the only application which is they are focusing on, that is the carry bag. So that is one you are getting every super mall and everywhere. So that is where slowly transition is happening there. So that is one thing. And now, because we are fully dependent on the material from other countries, the majority of our plastic raw material for the controlled compostable plastic is coming from China. That is polylactic acid, PLA based plastics, and that is coming from China. One company at Uttar Pradesh, they are coming up with some handsome capacity in this particular area, but still it is not become functional, or initial stage work is ongoing. So definitely it will take 3-4 more years. Till then, we have to face this challenge.
Correct. And on the sustainability front, I think Mr. Patel has already given us a glimpse of what the digitalization can help in achieving the sustainability in this sector. So I'll move on to the next section, which is we understand now sustainability is a key pillar there, but so the question is to Mr. Darwa, right? What we must do on ground, right, to achieve the global competitiveness.
Yes. Hello. Yes, as we all know, the chemical and petrochemical industries when it is growing, it always comes with the pollution, that is liquid pollution, soil pollution, air pollution. So we must address those first. So a lot of the industries in Gujarat and everywhere, it is micro, small, and medium. So the concept of you ask to the government, the one department is GPCB, that will always ask it is a polluter pays principle, and that is the responsibility of individual industries to treat that. But the concept of common effluent treatment plant came in late 90s somewhere. So based on that, the government is thinking thought to provide some assistance to the common environment infrastructure projects like TETPs, common treatment, storage, and disposal facilities, some augmentation, upgradation of CETPs, so that the small units can be, become sustainable, and because they have a lot of issues with the land availability, they have a, liquidity issues, everything. So that can be catered with the common environment infrastructures, like common facility. So the other department of government, that is Industries Commissionerate, is providing incentives to such common facilities project, like under the umbrella of Industrial Policy 2020, there is a scheme of assistance to common environment infrastructures, wherein the government is providing assistance up to 50 crore of, 40% of the eligible project cost up to 50 crore. And I think that is basically to support the industry and to provide the gap funding, I would say. So I think that way, and government is also thinking to include some of the other common facilities in upcoming policies also. So I think that way we can become a competitive and economically viable manufacturing hub in the country.
Right, right. And just to add to that, are there any schemes which actually, kind of supports the industry who are adopting the green practices, green industry practices?
Yeah, definitely. Under the same umbrella of 2020 scheme, and there is a scheme of assistance to environment protection measures, wherein if the industries is already achieving the regulatory norms, for example, the in stack emission, if certain regulatory norms are, it is already achieving that, and if the industry voluntarily do something by adopting some green practices, or by modifying some process, or by modifying or replacing some equipment, if it is further downing it to the next level, and there is a assistance from the Industries Commissionerate also.
Sure, sure. And today we attended the main session, I think, and the ambassador from Rwanda, he specifically mentioned about ease of doing business there, and you get you can register your company within 6 hours. I mean that's good, right? And Gujarat has also done pretty well in terms of ease of doing. So how can can you please help us understand how MSMEs can take advantage of this?
Yeah, if you see in Gujarat, for MSMEs, there is a MSME Facilitation and Operation Act 2019, wherein an investor has to just fill some details onto the investor facilitation portal, where he just need to give his intent of this registration, and there is a acknowledgement certificate is generated, and by generating that acknowledgement certificate, he will be exempted from all the state approvals for 3 years. He did not to take any approval from the state government except central government. So initially for 3 years, and further 6 months will be provided for the compliances and all. So there is a belief in the Gujarat that if the any business is sustained for initial 1,000 days, then it has a strong base for the long term race. So that is there.
Okay, thanks. Thank you so much. Moving on to the skills aspects of it. So in the early session, we discussed about how skills can again play important role, specifically in the chemicals industry. So my question is to Mr. Divasali, right? How can CPET, how can institution like CPET can play this role in enhancing the skills, right, which are ready for the industries, right, and which industries can really adopt?
Well, CPET model is little different than the regular engineering colleges or academic institutes. CPET focus on more on the practical oriented program. Though we go with the AICTE norms and all, but we run our programs that is more on the practical oriented part. Thing is that the students in the very prestigious institute from the country, they know a lot of on the theoretical part, but putting the same into the practice, that is a challenge for them. So if an engineer who is coming as a mechanical engineer to the field, and when he came across the CNC machine, he has everything in his mind, how CNC will operate, what should be the program, which parameter he has to put. But putting that thing on a control definitely is struggling a lot. So there the CPET type of institute play a vital role. So CPET or ATIRA or these type of institutes, generally we ask the student to do practice while going through that academic sessions. So this is one. Apart from that, CPET also run various program, which is tailor-made program as well as the finishing school program that support any engineering college to practice that particular thing on a real-world machine. That is important. All our laboratory equipments are real-world machines, not a prototype type things. Second thing, the CPET provide a lot of technical support services, which is covered by the real world. So when we develop any plastic tool or die that will be used in the industry to generate some physical product which should be sellable. So do so, when student going through this particular exercise, he has got the hands-on experience and confidence. Yes, he can build a mold or he can run a machine which can generate a fruitful output and which can be sellable. So that is why CPET role is there.
Right, right. And in terms of innovation, right, and specifically into plastics, right, how CPET can help, in sustaining the development of this technology?
CPET research and development program are little different. We generally go with the industry-driven rather than going something which is theoretical or putting in a Q1 or Q2 journals or in some paper and presenting in some or other conference. Definitely, it is a part of that. But our focus is always what industry exactly. So we ask our student to go through that type of research. And again, we are associated with many industry as well as many industry in the plastics. So we came across the ongoing demand from the industry where they are actually wanting some development or research. I will say more on a development front rather than a hardcore research, which a science graduate is doing, mainly because we are applied science people, engineering. So we always think in the terms of developing something for the Indian market. One example I want to share with you. There is one mold from some European company known as Exico. They are in the business of manufacturing test specimen. Test specimen is a very common thing to understand the performance of any plastic raw material. So that test specimen mold, that particular company is selling at around 60-70 lakhs. The same mold CPET has developed with the same capability, with the same type of raw material from the Europe, and also developing same with some state-of-the-art machinery from Japan and Europe. And the cost of that particular product, when it is built in CPET, it is only 10 lakhs. So that is where the beauty is. Well, the point is, I want to emphasize on that, the Indian brain is capable enough to develop the same thing. There is no rocket science in developing that particular mode. But only thing, with the confidence, can we do or not? So there we ask our student to push themselves a little more so that they can do at par with the globe.
I think, and in the earlier panel, one of the panelists also mentioned about engineers, just doing, or they are just operating, they are not designing basically, and this brings us to that point, right? Right. In terms of global collaboration, so I'll come back to Mr. Kohli again, right? At Antwerp and Bruce, right? You have actually given us a successful example of integrated facility, right? And then international collaboration can definitely play a role in India's chemicals growth journey as well as Gujarat's chemicals growth journey. So how can this open the door? I mean, the international collaboration can open the door for us to move global.
I think in this current world, I think nothing is global. Though we look at this current scenario of war happening and everyone is more looking at inwards, but in a world like this, you can't really succeed. So I would feel, as India, we have a lot of talent, and I always give an example of the coastline. So Belgium's coastline overall is around 70 kilometers, whereas India's coastline is around 11,000 kilometers. Now, the amount of that's the opportunity that you're talking about, the comparative. But there is a lot of learnings that we can actually pick up from the global market. We don't need to reinvent the wheel every time. We can actually place from where it is. And I always give the example of how we played that in the telecom sector. We never had 1G or something. We just went for 2G, and now we are already at 5G. We're looking at 6G. So we actually leapfrogged the whole technology. And as Sir just mentioned, we've got the talent, we've got the capacity, we are building innovations. So which is very interesting. So now what do you get from a kind of a technology? We can actually get technology transfer. We can actually learn more of operations from the companies that are operating outside. We could actually look at AI, IoT solutions that are happening there. We could also look at the multimodal solutions that we are operating. Also, the main fact that we also can think about is capacity building and skill development, because those skills which are there in the markets, can we really replicate them? Can we have a sharing of information? Can we actually look at transfer of knowledge? We as sport have started doing that, because we not many people know that we have a training center at JNPT, which is the Mumbai JNPT port. We have a training center between collaboration between JNPA and Port of Antwerp, where we do port-related trainings every year, almost 12 to 13 trainings here. These trainings are also on hybrid model. You do the academics and then you actually go a week in Antwerp to really learn the practicalities. So there is a lot of opportunity, and with this current announcement of the India-EU FTA, I think the opportunities are going to open up. So I think the more faster we adopt, that's going to be the
Right, right. And rightly said, yeah. And ma'am also mentioned about so there are multiple avenues available for us to adopt, but we need that mechanism or that platform to be set up right at the maybe at the government level, or maybe at infrastructure level. If we can do that, that will be great.
I mean, we can't expect everything the government to do for us. Actually, we should also start from our own. I think the first start comes from ourselves. What do we really want to do? So I think I'll leave it.
Great, great. So I think yeah, we are very near. I think close to our panel time, right? So I'll just have a last maybe rapid fire for all of you, right? What is that one thing that we must do in next 5 years to become a globally competitive state or a country? For one sentence.
So 4, 5 large world-scale integrated sector-based complex like Jamnagar, Bharuch, like we have one in East, that is one port is there. I forgot the name.
Paradeep.
Paradeep. So we need 4, 5 more this kind of complexes.
Yes, definitely. We should adapt the plug and play model, with the estate having all the facilities for the treatment and everything. So that will be our next jump.
Okay.
I think cluster-based manufacturing is one of the requirement, because a similar type of activity is done by almost everybody, and they are not sharing their knowledge with each other. That is the major challenge with the Indian industry, and that is why we are not to compete with the China. Everybody is trying that doing the best of their capability, but they are not sharing with anybody. So that is the major challenge. We have to cope up on that.
Thank you, thank you.
Well, I think I'll put it in one word, it's integration. Whether you do integration of technology, whether you do integration for clusters, whether you do integration for innovation, everything has to be integrated. And as Sir mentioned, people are not sharing. I think we need to also create data sharing platforms where some knowledge which is not competitive can at least be shared.
Thank you, thank you.
I think it's good to see that all of the panel members are on the same page, and we all are talking about chemical clusters, integration. And actually, I also started in my initial talk on the same theme. So we are going to stick to that actually, and integration also needs a lot of collaboration between different partners. So we have to start evaluating different and unique innovative business models to collaborate with government, to collaborate with industry, to make sure that we are thinking differently and thinking ahead to make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. And to me, I think the most big thing that will happen or that should happen basically is the mindset change. Let's not look at cost effectiveness. Let's look at the value-driven specialty chemicals or specialization, which are sustainable, right? And that's where India can definitely grow. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you all our esteemed panelists for an extremely insightful discussion. What emerged very strongly from the session was that India's global competitiveness will not depend on cost advantage alone. It will increasingly depend on innovation, reliability, technology integration, and the speed of execution. The discussion also highlighted how Indian companies are now moving confidently from being volume-driven manufacturers to become a value-driven global partners. There was an important emphasis on strengthening supply chain, investing in advanced infrastructure, enhancing R&D capabilities, and creating globally benchmark industrial ecosystems. It's said that always aim at perfection, for only then will you achieve the excellence. And today's discussion clearly reflected that aspiration, not just to compete globally, but to lead with excellence. Ladies and gentlemen, let us once again give them a huge round of applause. And now I would like to invite Shri Jignesh Patel sir to please come on stage and present the memento to Shri Paritosh sir. Thank you for your presence today, sir. Jignesh sir, I would also like you to present to Shri Daljit Singh Kohli sir. A huge round of applause. I'd like to invite Shri D.M. Rana sir to please come on stage and give the memento to Shri B.M. Patel sir. Sir, I would also request you once again to present the memento to Shri Amit Dharwa sir. A huge round of applause. Ms. Arpita Parmar, I would like you to please come on stage and present the memento to Shri Pinal Mehta sir. And also to Shri Dinesh Dasane sir. I request all the panelists to please come together for a picture. Let's capture this moment. Thank you all. Thank you, sir. I would like you to take your seats, please. So as we come to close today's seminar, I would like to sincerely thank once again to all the distinguished disciplinaries, policymakers, global representatives, industry leaders, experts, and participants for contributing to such a meaningful and future-oriented discussions. It is helping to shape it from sustainability to circular economy, initiatives to global competitiveness, infrastructure development, innovation, and investment partnerships. And that alignment is what we all define the next phase of industrial development for South Gujarat and for India. As Vikram Sarabhai rightly said, we must be second to none. And judging by today's discussion, the future of India's chemical and petrochemical sector is moving strongly in that direction. On behalf of the organizers, I once again thank you all, to the speakers, dignitaries, delegates, and participants for coming here today and being an important part of this seminar. I am Amisha Shah signing off. Thank you very much. A huge round of applause for everyone present here.